we will call the meeting to order. It is 7 o'clock. This is the August 21st meeting of the Concord City Planning Board. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Certainly. Member Fox.
Here.
Member Hicks.
Here.
Member Savage.
Here.
Councillor Todd.
Here.
And Chair Woodfin.
Here. We have a quorum, just barely. We're waiting on one. Dina Demotrakis will be here shortly, and we'll seat her when she gets here. So we will open the meeting and move right to our first agenda item. It's approval of the July 17th minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve those minutes as submitted?
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. A quick agenda overview. Motion and a second to continue. Whoops, I'm sorry. 6A, determination of completeness for 10 to 12 Merchants Way, which is a major site plan, has been continued to the 18th, or they'd like to continue to the 18th at the request of the applicant. So if we could get a motion to continue that application to the 18th of September meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, and we have been notified by the applicant that item 8A, a minor site plan for 313 Loudon Road, has been withdrawn. So no action needed on ours, but if you're here to see either one of those items, again, 6A or 8A, those items will not be heard tonight. So let's move on to the design review applications by consent. For those in the audience, if you have any items in the determination of completeness component of our meeting, which is item, can you help me out here?
5A through 5G.
5A through 5G. If anyone has any issues with any of those, if you could make yourself known. Any member of the board want to pull any of those items, 5A through 5G, out of the consent agenda? No? If not, we will take a motion to approve items 5A through 5G, subject to the recommendations of Architectural Design Review.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so determination of completeness by component, that's 6A, we're not going to be doing that. So end of consent agenda moves us right into design review applications, item 7A. We could read that into the record.
Certainly. Signarama, on behalf of FlexAble, requests architectural design review approval for a new 15 square foot non-illuminated wall sign and a new 15 square foot internally illuminated pylon tenant panel sign at 249 Sheep Davis Road in the Gateway Performance District.
Okay, we get a quick staff update on this. I know there was some concerns regarding opacity and fitting in with the other signs on the pylon, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
You'll see as part of the application, you have the application from the applicant as well as some supplemental material, because this site recently, in the tenant panel that is being discussed, recently received an approval that has since been installed but doesn't show on the rendering due to timing based on the original application. I think the Signarama sign has a red background, whereas the application shows white.
Okay, welcome to the table.
Good evening.
If you could state your name for the record.
I'm Kendra Price. I'm the owner of Signarama. I am seeking approval on as submitted. Excuse me. It sounds like the only issue with this was the opacity. You need a sign with an opaque background with light lettering to help out with light pollution. I see my fear with making this opaque is having the thin, small letters, as this is only a 20-inch sign. These letters are probably only about 3-4 inches. If I were to make it lighter lettering, it would become fuzzy. It's 25 feet from the road and probably 10 to 15 feet up high. So the black on the light gray background will make it more visible to driving by. As far as the opacity background, it looks like there's about 5 signs in the general area that have a white background, and they were all approved. Even as recent as May, there was one approved right across the street. And also, this is not exactly a white background. This is a light to medium gray, just based on their logo.
Okay, and Alex, Alec, you said there's already a sign up with a red background, or?
You'll see in the application, it shows a baked with a black background,
Yeah.
the Flexable sign with the gray background
Yeah.
as submitted, and the Signorama has the white background.
Yeah.
So that Signorama sign was recently has approval, and the new sign, which is now installed, has a red background, and that's what's shown in that supplemental material.
Okay.
So as you're considering how the Flexable sign fits into the tenant panel, you'll want to.
And the base sign as shown in the original application is
Yep.
right, so black background. So the Signorama has a red background, then the black background at the bottom. So what are the options on the background?
We'd like to keep it this way, like I said, with visibility. And general, this is the second location, so we're trying to make it all look similar to each other. But I think that having the red, the black, and the gray background will look cohesive together.
Okay, anything else from staff? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? Members of the board, any comments, questions, concerns? Looking for a motion to either deny or approve. I don't see an issue with approving it as it is, but I am happy to make that motion if it moves things along. I'll make a motion to approve as submitted with the background, well, not whitish, off-white background, we'll call it, or as submitted, we'll call it.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. We're all set. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Close the public hearing, just for the record. Make sure I stay on track. Okay, let's move on. Site plans and subdivisions in our public hearing section. If we could read item 8B into the record.
Okay.
Right? 8A's out, 8B. Yep.
Tom Zajac and Hayner Swanson, Inc., on behalf of Stickney Avenue LLC, request approval for an amendment to a major site plan approval to move precedent condition 2 to subsequent conditions as a new subsequent condition 6. The site is addressed as 5 through 13 Stickney Avenue in the Opportunity Corridor Performance District. And I have
Yeah, we get a staff
Yeah, I'll
update on that, right?
give a brief background. So this, originally, the project was approved on March 15th, 2023, which gave it an expiration date of March 15th, 2024. They submitted an extension request for the March 20th, 24 hearing. The board approved that, and that extended the approval to March 15th, 2025. Subsequent to that, they have submitted several items, a recorded discontinuance plan. And then they submitted this amendment request on March 20th for the April hearing. They continued the April to May, they continued the May to June, they continued the June to July, and they continued the July to August, all of the requests of the applicant. The amendment request was submitted with no materials provided, no narrative, no explanations, and the exact statement was, it is proposed to amend the precedent condition number 2 for the previously approved major site plan. So there was no additional information given to staff regarding what they wanted to amend as precedent condition number 2. There was a meeting held on February 20th, 24, And in that meeting, staff was told verbally that their amendment, if they were going to do one, would be to move the precedent condition number 2 to be a subsequent condition to allow for the final plan set to be signed and work to begin on the project while addressing the engineering comments. In an email subsequent to that meeting on February 20th, 2024, Tom Zajac indicated that he didn't think the amendment was going to be necessary after all. And just for the board's edification, precedent condition number 2 reads, address all review comments to the satisfaction of the engineering division. So staff has, not knowing what the exact intent or content of the requested amendment is, has recommended against approving the amendment because precedent conditions are there for a reason. They need to be satisfied before the project begins work.
Okay, so just have a question for Pete. Peter, the question regarding video, so let's read this into the record. And all engineering comments have not been addressed and the project cannot advance to the construction phase. One issue in particular is the video and all the necessary repair and lining of existing storm drains underneath the site. The site sits atop some of the oldest and largest storm drains in the city, which are crucial for the function of the system and downtown area of the city. Given the importance of this section of the storm drain, engineering does not recommend approval of this request to amend precedent condition number 2. Just for the record, the video is the video of the pipes and the condition that they're currently in. Is that right?
That's right, Mr. Chairman, exactly.
Did we anticipate?
We do have the video now.
Okay.
The heart of the issue is that there are some things we saw in the video which makes us think that the pipes really need to be lined, and they need to be lined before any kind of construction work starts over the top of those pipes. And
Okay. And do we anticipate someone here to speak to this?
I was told by Mr. Zajac that Attorney John Cronin would be here representing the application.
I don't believe there's anybody here for this, correct?
I don't see Cronin.
Okay. No matter what, I don't feel comfortable moving past a decision like this, given what we've heard from the engineering, what we see from here. I would like to hear from the applicant, but I don't. The meeting's going, and we're not gonna delay it. So, I'm gonna make a motion that this. How do we handle it? Table it?
Continue it.
So
Continue
table
it to the next.
Continue it to September meeting.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we table this application, continue it to the September 18th meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. The request is tabled to the 18th. All right, let's move on. 8C in our agenda. We're moving so fast.
No.
Knock on wood.
Okay, Granite Engineering LLC, on behalf of Pitco Frylater LLC, requests approvals for a waiver from section 11.098 of the site plan regulations to allow for an additional extension over the maximum 2 extensions and a subsequent
Yes,
1-year extension
now we're online.
of the major site plan and architectural design review approval for a 224 square foot industrial building and associated site improvements at 15 Integra Drive in the Office Park Performance District, Industrial District, and Open Space Residential District.
Okay, any staff comments or updates? I don't think there probably are, but I'm willing to,
We need completeness.
willing to bet if there are. No?
This was originally a major site plan and 2 conditional use permits approved in September of 2021. The applicant has requested and received 2 1-year extensions, which is the maximum our regulations allow. Through this time, the project has not been cold. They've been working with the state through a series and getting their AOT permit. They're about near completion. So they are asking for a waiver from the section of our regulations that limit to a maximum of 2 one-year extensions, so they can request a third. They will be and have submitted new conditional use permits, as those have been deemed to have expired. And staff is in support of the waiver and extension.
Great. Welcome to the table. If you could state your names for the record.
Sure, my name is Dan Luker. I'm with Pretty Flaherty. I'm counsel to Pitco Friolator LLC, the applicant.
I'm Jennifer McCord with McCord Engineering Associates, the engineer of the project.
Great. Well, we're hoping it'll go forward, and tell us what you need the extension. I mean, it's just pretty straightforward, right? You just haven't got all the ducks in a 300,000 square foot space in a brand new building. So close.
It's been a bear, and I've had the light lifting. Jen and her team and Granite Engineering have been working like dogs for 3 years on this, and we just ran into some problems that we could not control. And as I've outlined in the letter application I sent, it is in large part due, there were some delays with city staff because there was some changeover there and stuff, and we're on our 4th engineer and the like, but it's largely because of the state.
It's always the state. Even if it isn't, we're going to blame the state. So,
Let's blame the state, not the city.
As you folks know, you need an AOT permit to go forward. And in the old days, an AOT was pretty straightforward. If you complied with the rules and met their drainage and other requirements, you got the permit in fairly short order. With the change that the legislature made in 2021, there is now a provision that says the Fish and Game and New Hampshire Heritage Bureau can weigh in on every AOT application, and they weighed in big time on ours.
sure.
And that led to a year and a half of requests. Finally, we provided a declaration of covenants and restrictions under which this is a 54-acre property, and we're going to use about 23 acres to build the facility and then the parking area next to it. The rest of it is going to remain undeveloped, and it's largely wooded with something called scrub pine forest, which is valued and in decline, and Fish and Game and New Hampshire Heritage Bureau and DES want to preserve it. So they came to us and said, why don't you give us a conservation easement that dedicates 15 acres to us. And Pitco agreed to do that. It's an area that's not going to be used for the plant, but it took forever to get that done. The state has a bunch of requirements. Fish and Game in particular had a bunch of suggestions that we incorporated, and once we got the declaration drafted in early 2023, I think, it went to the state regulators, and then it went to the AG's office. About a year and a half later, we got comments, and then we worked through those, and now we have a final declaration which will create a conservation easement of 15 acres just off our development site, and the state will control that tract and have the right to do now and then. They say controlled burns are the only way to keep this scrub forest regenerative and protect the wildlife on that. So we've agreed in this declaration as part of the AOT permit to execute that declaration and record it before we do any improvements at the property, before we do site work. So it's completed in draft now. Finally, it's almost done. It's not quite, but it's almost done.
All right.
When we start clearing, at that point, before we start clearing, we're obligated to record that, and it'll be a benefit to the public, and the state will essentially control a portion of our property. So all that took some time, and we ended up, they've been pretty diligent, Jen and her team, about trying to get things done, and we found ourselves here, and under your regs, we only have 2 years, and so we're asking for another year. We don't think we'll need another year because we're really close on the AOT, and the plans with the city have been submitted in next to final form. At your next hearing, we'll have applications to renew the CUPs, and we should be, we hope, good to go. So with luck, we'll be in a position to ask for final site plan approval in end of this year, early next year. So we don't think we need a year, but we're asking for it just because of where we've been. And we think we meet, I laid it out in the letter, I think we meet all the waiver requirements under, what section that is? 36.08, I think. We meet every one of those 5 requirements, it's no detriment to the public. The site plan or the city ordinances are all in the same way they were when we started. And no harm, no foul. Nobody's getting prejudiced by this renewal. And we very much want to keep the project moving forward. We need to get these approvals finalized. Carl Searle, the president of Citgo, is proud of his employees here. He's got a good operation. They're, a shining star for their parent corp, Middleby Corporation, and they sell friolators all over the world. And they're growing. They do a great job. He very much wants to keep that workforce and this new plant here.
Yep, as do we. So.
And so we just want to keep moving forward. And we're not hiding anything. We still need to get corporate approvals and financing, but none of that can happen until we finalize our approvals.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Yeah, David.
Just one quick one, so that I'm clear on, you need to record the 15-acre parcel with the fish and game, whatever that was, and until that is recorded, you can't move forward, is that?
No, once we get our approvals and get our financing and get our design finalized and get our corporate approvals, we want to go. And once we get the go-ahead, at that point, before we put an excavator on the site or anything, we've committed to Fish and Game, DES, that is a condition of the AOT permit, which we expect will issue within the next, 60 days. We have to, at that point, record this declaration, which creates a conservation easement area on our property that the state has access to. And we've run it by the city or the city solicitor, and there's a proposed street layout that runs through the conservation easement area that's already in place. We expressly made the declaration subject to the city's rights if the city ever decides to extend that road. So that's the declaration is essentially done. We didn't want to record it unless we move forward with the project, and that's how we left it with Fish and Game.
Last part of that question then would be, do you anticipate any problems with that getting recorded?
No.
If we give you a year, you feel comfortable with that?
Well, we wouldn't record it then. I'm just, to be clear, we have to get the financing and the approvals, and in all candor, New Hampshire's a tough place to operate in because you can't get tax relief and there's not a lot of financing available, but we want to build it here. Carl wants to build it here, and once we move forward with the project, get the go-aheads, at that point, we will record the declaration.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? No? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony. Again, I think it's fairly straightforward, using the information that we got here tonight and the plan sets that we're intimately familiar with from several years ago. Many of us are. Could we get a recommendation? So staff recommends planning board discuss it. Okay, so a recommendation to grant the waiver request below for the listed section of the site plan regulations using the criteria 674-44-3E2 and section 3608 of the site plan regs. What'd you say?
Adopt the findings of fact.
Yeah, so using, again, the information we heard here tonight, the testimony that we took, and the packet of information that we've got in our packet here. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that waiver as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Before we do that, I'll just recognize that Dina's at the table but not voting on this. Opposed? And that motion carries. So you guys are all set.
Thank you very much for your time.
Wait a minute, no, we got one more. Is to grant an additional third one-year extension to the major site plan approval at 15 Integra Drive, subject to all precedent, or previous conditions of approval. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that additional extension?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And with that, we're done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We'll recognize Dina to the table as a member tonight. Okay. And we will move on to next item on our agenda. That is item 8D on the agenda.
Okay. Richard D. Bartlett and Associates LLC, on behalf of Samantha Lydia Field and 4 to 6 Hutchinson Avenue Condo Association LLC, request approvals for a minor subdivision application and certain waivers from the subdivision regulations for a lot line adjustment between 35 Downing Street and 4 to 6 Hutchison Avenue in the downtown residential district.
All right, we get a quick staff update on that.
We do need the determine it complete
Okay.
and open the public hearing.
Okay, so staff has found the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and we would like a motion to determine the application complete and open the public hearing. So moved. Not very,
Second.
not very eloquently put, but you got the message.
We get it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Public hearing is open. Let's get an update from staff if we could.
Sure. Staff is in support of conditional approval of this lot line adjustment. The applicant is requesting 2 waivers to not provide wetland delineations, which staff is in support of, as well as to not provide a contiguous usable lot area rectangle that has a horizontal dimension of less than 60 feet. We're in support of that, mostly because this is a downtown, the lots are the size they are, and we're comfortable there are no wetlands on Downing Street. One item, should the board look to conditionally approve this application, precedent condition 1A should be struck as a misinterpretation of the regulations by myself. And if you want, I can help craft that language to recommend 1B
Get there,
through
yeah.
I.
That's 1204 location plan, is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, the application complies with that section of our regulations.
Okay, so we're gonna strike that, okay.
Some other precedent conditions is 4-6 Hutchinson is a condominium. One of the requirements of, one of the precedent conditions will be that that condominium association applies for an amendment with a new site plat and condo documents.
Okay, welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record.
Good evening, my name is Mark Sargent, and I'm with the firm of Richard Bartlett and Associates, and I am here tonight to represent the applicants, Ms. Fields, and the 4 through 6 Hutchinson Ave Condominium Association. So the property before the board this evening, there's two properties. Ms. Fields' property is located at 35 Downing Street, and that's the one, you can see where,
Oh,
sorry, so we get current events instead. The one fronting on Downing Street there, that has an area of 0.38 acres with 56.34 feet of frontage and a single-family home on the property. The other parcel located a little bit further down, right in this here, it's owned by the 4 through 6 Hutchinson Ave Condominium Association, so obviously located at 4 through 6 Hutchinson Ave. Currently has an area of 0.17 acres with 142 feet of frontage on Hutchinson Ave, and it is a 2-unit condominium. The proposal before the board this evening is to annex 0.11 acres, which is this little section right in here, of 35 Downing to 4 through 6 Hutchinson. So the new lot area for 35 Downing would go from 0.38 to 0.27 acres, and the new lot area for 4 through 6 Hutchinson would go from 0.17 to 0.28, and there would be no changes in the frontage. As Alec mentioned, we are seeking 2 waivers. That to the section 12.07, which is the wetland delineation. Obviously, this is a downtown area. There are no wetlands. And section 19.02, parentheses 4, which is the usable lot area rectangle. We can meet the usable area requirements, however, given the size of these lots being downtown, we just don't have 60 feet of width within the setbacks. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Show me again the annex spot. Is it?
Right here, Rich.
Okay.
Boom, boom. So this would be part of, oops, sorry, my mistake. This area right here. So this would be, essentially what it does is gives the building a backyard.
Okay.
Because they have no backyard right now. And that red button, doesn't work because I shake so much now that it would be all
That's
over the
okay.
place, so.
You know what you're doing. Okay. That answered your question? Yeah, that was my question too. I'm glad it wasn't just me. Questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about the application? No? What's that?
That's the same question, so.
The same question. Everybody had the same question.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Where the hell is the spot that we're annexing? We couldn't
Oh,
figure it out.
yeah, it's a little hard to see, isn't it?
Why?
Sorry, I should have
That's okay.
done
That's all
something
right.
to highlight it, but.
That's all right. Okay, so no questions from the audience. We'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Mark. for
Great,
the
thank you very
testimony.
much.
Okay, and Alec, again, findings of fact tonight, we'll use the information that was presented to us, the information that's in our packet as our findings of fact. And we have got 8.2, right?
Yep.
Grant the waiver request below from the listed section of the subdivision regulations using criteria of RSA 674-36-2 and 2 and section 3508 of the subdivision regulations, and those are outlined in section 12.07 for wetland delineation and 19054 usable lot rectangle. Would someone like to make a motion to grant those two waiver requests as outlined?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And 8.4 is to grant minor subdivision approval for the lot line adjustment between 35 Downing Street and 4 to 6 Hutchinson Avenue, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions. And again, precedent condition 1A will be struck. Should we change it, or?
I would recommend approving precedent conditions A1, B through I, and
1B through I.
Yep, and precedent conditions 2 through 6, as well as subsequent conditions 1 through 2.
Okay. So in your packet, we'll strike precedent condition 1A, and we will recognize that it'll be precedent conditions 1B through I and 2 through 6, and subsequent conditions 1 and 2. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that minor subdivision approval as outlined?
So moved. Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set. Thank you. All right, let's move on in our agenda. We are at item 8E.
Okay.
Could read that into the agenda?
T.F. Bernier, a division of Hoyle, Tanner and Associates, Inc., on behalf of Eleanor E. Yeaton, trustee, requests approvals for a minor subdivision application, a conditional use permit for driveway separation, and certain waivers from the subdivision regulations for a two-lot subdivision at 41 to 43 Concord Street in the downtown residential district. And if we could first do our completeness and open the public hearing.
Okay, so we do have a determination of completeness component. Staff has found the application complete, not in the development of regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete and open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Public hearing is open. Let's get a quick staff update on this one if we can. This is 8E, I think I said it wrong before, but
This is a fairly simple, straightforward application. This is an existing tax lot with two existing single-family detached dwellings and an existing driveway. Everything there is existing. The applicant simply wants to split it so that each house will be on its own lot and have its own driveway. They've received the necessary variances needed to do so, and to have that individual driveway. They applied for the conditional use permit for the driveway separation, and staff is recommending approval.
Alrighty, welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record. I
Good
always have
evening.
to say this. I know you guys come every month, but
Good evening. My name's Tim Bernier with the Hoyle Tanner and Associates. We prepared the plans for Eleanor Yeaton, the owner. The application is pretty straightforward. We are requesting a few waivers, but these buildings, nothing is changing. Type of ownership is really the only thing that's changing. No new construction, no alterations, no additions, no expansions, no increase in impervious surface. It's just really, this lot has had 2 residential structures on it for over 100 years. And Eleanor's just gotten to the point where she's tired of being a landlord and wants to have owner occupied instead of rental units. So she went to the zoning board and got variances to allow this to happen. But again, and all the waiver requests really have to do with the fact that there's no new construction. Nothing's changing. The way the parking lot works, the way the cars park, there's no new units or anything. It's all going to be exactly the same. So it's really just changing it from rental property to owner occupied kind of property. The one waiver to allow an iron pin is because it's in the pavement for the driveway, and we can put the pin in and put it down flush. And if we put in a bound, we'll have to dig up the asphalt and make a mess. So that's the purpose of that waiver request.
so, and Tim, these 2 properties are standalone, so no electrical service, sewer, water.
They're all
anything like that.
independent
So
now.
everything's and separate driveway, curb cuts are there existing, or?
So the driveway, the boundary
Sure.
line goes right down the center of the driveway.
Yep.
Just a lot there was, in this neighborhood, Concord Street and down here, a lot, that happens a lot.
Yep. Okay, any questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? Yeah, go ahead.
There's enough room for splitting the driveway in half for cars to maneuver carefully in both.
Right, so it's exactly how they do it now, is how they're gonna do it after. The only difference is they'll own the property instead of being renters, but, yeah, they'll back out into the street, which everybody on that street does.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing nobody has a question, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anything else from staff? I don't think so. I think it's pretty straightforward. So again, using our findings of fact as the information we've got in our packets, the testimony we heard here tonight, we've got a couple items on the docket here to handle for this, which are outlined in 8.2. All right, there we go. So first item is 8.2 is to grant the waiver request below from the listed section of the subdivision regulations. And those are outlined in the line in your packet there: topography, municipal utilities, scale, lot monuments, usable lot, rectangle, residential, single-family driveways. Would someone like to make a motion to grant those waiver requests as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. 8.3 is to grant the conditional use permit from Article 28.711F driveway separation alternatives to allow for existing driveway to be split into 2 independent and separate driveways, each for the exclusive use of the lot upon which it sits, and said driveways being adjacent to each other rather than separated by the required 40 feet. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And 8.4 is to grant minor subdivision approval for the subdivision of 41 through 43 Concord Streets into 2 lots as submitted, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions, and those are outlined in precedent conditions 1 through 7, subsequent conditions 1 and 2. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that minor subdivision approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we move on. Let's move on to item 8F. on our agenda?
Ooh, TF Moran, Inc., on behalf of Unitil, requests approvals for conditional use permit applications for disturbance of wetland buffer and disturbance of buffers in the Shoreland Protection District for the replacement of existing utility structures and reconductoring of existing overhead line crossings within the existing utility right-of-way off of West Portsmouth Street and Commercial Street in the open space residential district. And again, we need the whole,
The whole
Determination of
determination of
complete,
completeness. And this is not a development of regional impact, correct?
correct.
All right, so staff has determined the application complete, not a development of regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete and open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We are open to the public. Let's get a quick staff update if we could
Sure.
on this.
You'll notice most of the conditions precedent will relate to showing the flood hazard district on the plans, as well as some municipal utilities that are in the area. And the right-of-way, the applicant had provided us the easements that Unitil has and has acknowledged that there are utility structures in the floodway and in that flood hazard district. So we're asking them to show compliance with the flood hazard overlay district accordingly, and also to submit as part of those requirements the state permits that Unitil will be required to apply for.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alec. Welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Jeremy Belanger. I am a licensed engineer and a project manager with TF Moran here tonight on behalf of Unitil. As stated, we are rebuilding what is known as the 15H3 crossing. So this is located in northern Concord to the west of I-93, just south of exit 16. We are replacing existing structures due to age to be able to accommodate current and future load growth within the northern Concord area. So in order to do so, we need to have some wetlands and shoreline buffer impacts. The majority of which are temporary. They are due to having to place matting in order to get to the structures for replacement. So we are seeking 2 conditional use permits, one for impacts to the Shoreline Protection Buffer District, the second for wetland buffer impacts. I'll leave it up to the board. Would you like me to read the conditional use permits into record?
That's fine.
There were staff comments, and as Alec stated, those were the easements, which we went back to, I believe it was 1937, and pulled the easements. So those are existing within the right-of-way. There were also some comments on the plan themselves, showing those existing utilities, flood hazard, and floodway notes. The engineering review had a question regarding the matting, and in the details, the matting is shown staggered so that if necessary, a stream crossing could be accomplished. It's a standard detail. In this case, there is no stream crossing. Matting could be stacked so that they get a level platform in order to stage around the new utility structures. But we can revise that detail accordingly. The new structures are going to be 61 feet tall, just over 10 feet taller than the existing poles that they'll be replacing. And check my notes. State permits. So we do have a DES shoreline permit by notification will be submitted once we have confirmation that any city comments are addressed. The reason that hasn't been applied for yet is shoreline permit by notifications can't be amended. So we wanted to ensure that any comments the city had were included in the plans that were submitted for the state permits. Currently listed on the cover sheet of the plans is a wetland permit by notification, but we were able to reevaluate the configuration as proposed, and we would like to point out that there is no longer any wetland impacts associated with the access, so that will be coming off. And the Department of Energy,
Say that again, sorry. There's no longer any wetland impact?
there will be no wetland impacts. On the cover sheet, it's listed as a DES wetland
Right.
permit by notification.
Yep.
So we revised the design so that there are no wetland impacts. We just changed our access path so that we avoided. So there are still the wetland buffer impacts for the city buffer.
Yeah.
But actual wetland impacts,
Okay.
there won't be any.
Okay.
The Department of Energy will issue a license to maintain and operate an electric crossing over a public body of water. So same thought process behind that. We wanted to make sure that all of the city comments were addressed in those plan sets. And beyond that, we had the coordination with New Hampshire Fish and Game and New Hampshire National Heritage Bureau. So Fish and Game has provided their comments, which will be included on the final plans before they're sent in for signature. And NHB gave us an all clear today.
Okay, I'll admit I'm not as versed as I should be in reading plans with electrical poles on them. I can read a plan set pretty good, but so prop UP and then the number 53, 46. How many are those poles?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so
So
we're
there's
looking at the existing poles. I'm looking at the second page of your sheet, from the top of the sheet, which is prop 53, and then for inexplicable reasons it goes to 46, and then 53 again, or 53X, I guess, and then 53, then 52, and then 51. Are those all being replaced?
Yes, so there will be a total of 6 poles being replaced, and the ones that I had mentioned, it being 61 feet, those are just the 2 that are on either side
So
of the
the two,
river.
that was going to be my question. So 50, number 50 on the south side and number 51 on the north side of the 2 taller ones, right?
That is correct.
And those are 10 feet taller than the existing pole, and those span the distance between over the river, right?
Yep, so approximately 450 feet spanning the river. The taller pole gives the opportunity for other
Yep.
utilities to put their lines.
no, I
So
get
there
it.
will be 3 communication lines crossing,
Yep.
as well as the electric on top.
Okay. And there's no other poles on the southbound side that are being affected, right?
Correct. After south of pole 51, we'll be tying into the existing
Perfect.
poles.
Okay. Other questions from the board? No? I'd ask any member of the audience have any questions or concerns. There's nobody left, so I will thank you for the testimony. We will close the public hearing and look to the staff report here. Boom, 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 boom. I want to make sure, Alec, we address the issues of the existing versus the new. Do we have any questions regarding what you'd mentioned in the open on existing structures?
We have it all as precedent conditions,
Okay.
and if the, we feel comfortable at a staff level to make sure that, once the municipal utilities are laid on, that if there are conflicts, they'll be resolved
Okay.
with, whatever adjustments necessary for the pole. Same thing when it comes to flood mitigation, it's up to the code administrator's determination.
Okay.
It would just be a modification to the typical detail, I would imagine.
Okay, great, thank you. And no other questions from the board? If not, we'll go again. Our findings of fact is the testimony that we heard here tonight, the packet of info that we've got with the application, and based on that, we're looking for recommendation to grant the conditional use permit from Article 28.4.3D, conditional use permits required for certain disturbances of wetland buffers. Would someone like to make a whoops, and then that's, so grant conditional use permit with the precedent conditions outlined, which is precedent conditions 1 through 1A through 1J, 2 through 8, and subsequent conditions 1, 2, 3, and 4. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So that is all set. Thank you very much. And I think that is it, correct?
It is.
It is. So let's move on to our other business. We've got a item 9A, you'll recognize in the packet, is a planning board discussion to schedule a joint work session with Architectural Design Review Committee to review one, the August 12th City Council referral, as well as Design Review Committee memorandum on recently adopted zoning amendments pertaining to conditional use permits for the obstruction of the State House dome and to exceed maximum height limits within portions of the Central Business Performance and Opportunity Corridor districts, and two, Architectural Design review process and procedures for signing and for signs and structures. We had a quick meeting, staff and myself, with a couple of folks from Architectural Design Review regarding process, procedures, where we value them, what we want to see them doing in the future. I'd like to bring them in, have them be part of the larger discussion on that particular topic with relation to signs and how they're, where we see them fitting into the overall equation, as well as the discussion regarding the City Council referral on the height requirements. So I'd like to, and thinking this through, I think what I'd like to propose is a joint meeting with Architectural Design Review, public meeting, so it's got to be a publicly held meeting. We'll have it here before the next planning board meeting. So the September planning board meeting will start at 6 o'clock with a meeting here. Staff will be here. It's not a closed meeting where Jim Kennedy comes in and speaks to us as the city solicitor. We can look for that if we need city solicitor input. We can have the city solicitor come in, but I don't think that that's necessary. I think we can kind of hash through issues that have been addressed either in Liz Hengen's note to us regarding the amendment last time, and then just general discussions that you may or may not have been exposed to by people talking to you or commenting, from the public that have called you and said things. I know I have. I've gotten several phone calls from people that are concerned and want some clarity. So if that's adoptable and something that we could do, I'd love to be able to put that on the agenda for next month, make sure everybody's available, that, the people that aren't here tonight are available. Teresa, I'd like to get her input. I'd like to get Jeff's input because we haven't heard from him in a couple of months, and certainly Earl Pierce's. So I'd like to put it out to the group from staff. We'll have staff send a note out and say, is everybody good for the September 18th meeting to have a 6 o'clock start with a 1-hour session? I don't anticipate it taking longer than that, but if it does, we'll address it and kind of go from there. I expect we'll be able to move through it pretty expeditiously. But any thoughts or comments, questions, Matt?
One quick question. Will we need a quorum, and with people's schedules, will we have difficulty getting that quorum if we start at 6?
Given it's a work session, I don't think we'll need a quorum. We'll confirm that, but I don't believe we need a quorum if we are having almost like a committee meeting. I want it to be public because I want it to be transparent, but we're not going to be making any decisions and saying this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about it. We're going to be saying, okay, at the meeting, we'll have it on the agenda same way, item 9, to formalize any of those, and then that will be the quorum and the discussion piece. Is that logical? I think that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. Brett?
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that, I think Jeff had said that he has difficulty getting it the 6
I know he does. Yeah.
That's the only thing, but, because it'd be nice to have everybody present, as you were just pointing out, to give comment. But I'm gathering from what you're saying that it's going to be, this may end up being the sort of the start of a discussion. We may not end up having to really finalize anything at that point, but then we could move that forward if we needed to.
Absolutely. And public testimony as well. If we want to hear, if there's people that have got questions or concerns that either we haven't thought of, we haven't heard from people already, I do want to be able to bring the public in and say, hey, let us know what you think. And that, as you know, can take time. So it may not be a one and done type of thing, and we may push out the process a little bit farther.
Yeah, just to further clarify and emphasize what you said, the work session would just be a discussion amongst the people here. It is open to the public, but you won't take any comment from the
Right.
public. So,
Well-
and there's no action taken. So,
Okay,
you know,
that's
you would then decide, do we want a public hearing?
Yep.
And that it would be the format then to obtain any public
So
feedback.
that would be the
Notice,
formal, that would be the formal
Okay.
process, okay.
And-
Makes sense.
And Jeff Santa Cruz did tell me that he would be okay for any night at 6 or 7, provided he had enough advance notice.
Great, thank you.
Good. And I know Teresa didn't have a problem with the 6 o'clock as well, so. Okay, so if that's acceptable, I think we don't need to do a motion or anything like that. We'll put it on the docket and have staff reach out to Architectural Design Review as well as the folks on the list here. And open it to the alternates as well, to Kira and to Frank and to anybody else that sits on as an alternate. I think they're the only 2 alternates, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah, so the only 2 alternates there. Again, for feedback and kind of general discussion from folks. Okay, I think that's it, right?
One other item, I emailed everyone a letter of interest that had been received from Merle Thorpe
Oh, yeah.
to
Yep.
he's interested in being appointed as a member of the Architectural Design Review Committee. And so I emailed you his qualifications and his letter of interest, and the board is so inclined. It'd be wonderful to make a motion to appoint him.
I will make that motion based on what I saw from his CV and his interest. I think that'd be great, he'd be a great addition to the architectural. Resume is outstanding, yep. So I'll make that motion if someone would like to second it. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, so Mr. Thorpe doesn't know what he's in for. Okay, and with that, the rousing hour of 8 o'clock, see, Dina, I told you, they didn't all last until 11:30. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
So moved. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you
wanna
very
get out of
much.
here so fast, you went right to the second. That's good.
I get dinner tonight.
I